Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Yedley, and I work for Values into Action in the Collaborative for Citizen-Directed Supports on behalf of the New Jersey Self-Direction Conference Planning Committee. I am honored to present to you today our workshop presenters, Patricia Brennan, Colleen McLaughlin, and Jessica Licona, on the topic of creating high-quality supports brokerage services.
So good evening, everybody. As Amy said, I'm Trish Brennan. Colleen's joined us, and Jess is also going to be doing some of this presentation tonight. Colleen, if you could just advance to the next slide, it'd be great. We're really happy to have all of you here tonight. I have been starting almost every presentation that we do as a division, really talking about what our mission is. And I'm going to get into just a little bit about, support brokerage, but the mission for Division of Developmental Disabilities is that we assure the opportunity for individuals with developmental disabilities to receive quality services and supports, participate meaningfully in their communities, and exercise their right to make choices. So again, this brings us back to the why we're doing this and who it's for, and all the next steps of what the division is there for. In the fall, so you can move to the next slide, but there we go. So in the fall, right before COVID started, we started to launch Support Brokerage as a service for people to really try to enhance the way in which self-direction was able to be, pursued for people. So we, really tried to make sure that we were putting things forward, moving it forward, because what we're seeing is that Support Brokerage needed to be, it was actually in the waiver in our community care program, written in the manual, but it hadn't been put to practice. We hadn't really figured out a way to implement it. So in the fall prior to the pandemic is when we launched the whole entire service and the training and the different pieces. So it had a slow start, obviously. But again, we, really wanted to make sure that we got it up and running so that people could have it as a service to use for self-direction. It is such a key critical component. Now, last year, you can move to the next slide. In fact, the February conference of February 2022, at this exact conference, we announced the new Office of Education on Self-Directed Services, seeing that people needed education as to what self-direction was, because as our system moved to fee-for-service, there were a lot of changes going on, and people had choices in who provided their service, but people weren't adequately informed of what they should be in, what self-direction truly is. So we want you to meet our team a little bit so you can see that we stem from the top of the state all the way down to the bottom. There's myself, I'm in the Trenton office, Jessica Licona, who you'll hear from to the end. She's our assistant director, she's in the Freehold office. We just added the arm of self-advocacy and focusing that with self-direction as well. And Ashley Ritchie's in our Flanders office. Christine Jones is in our Flanders office, Susan Fettman Voorhees, Mays Landing for Marguerite Lanchambon, and Trenton for Adam Weir. Aisha Jeffries is our administrative assistant, and Betty Gladney is in Freehold and one of our transition and education liaisons, as well as Asia Robertson in our Flanders team. So kind of meet our team, who we are, who you can come to. If you're a support broker, a family member, a support coordinator, anybody, if you have questions on what self-direction is, you can move to the next slide. Again, that slide was just kind of show you that when you write into our help desk, you actually get one of us, you get a person attached to that. So what is the purpose of our Office of Education on Self-Directed Services? It's to provide a centralized place for the delivery of the education for people with developmental and intellectual disabilities to receive their services for their families, advocates, support coordinators, any community partners, and internal and external stakeholders. Again, it's for anybody to write into. If you have questions, you're thinking about self-direction, if you're a support broker who isn't quite sure of some of the areas in which you're working on, you need some guidance, you can write into our help desk. Again, we are staffed by subject matter experts on the best practices in self-directed services, really encouraging people to have the right services and supports to live their best lives. Really thinking about the person and what next steps get them to that next piece. To move to the next slide. So again, what are the responsibilities of our office? Because that's a key piece to self-direction, and for support brokerage, as we're talking today, we're going to get more in detail about really creating good support brokerage practices. We educate the stakeholders. We facilitate networking meetings, which have been absolutely amazing for people to connect with each other, and community cafes. But we just started them up with support brokers and support coordinators to foster good relationships. We provide technical assistance for support brokerage, and we engage in work to better integrate the information about self-direction into our service delivery system. Can move to the next slide. Again, what is self-directed services? The whole conference is about it, right? So hopefully you all have an idea that what self-directed services is, but this slide kind of tells you a little bit about what it is and the next steps. You can move to the next slide. So supports brokerage. So again, this was a service that was seen to be needed in order for people to really truly adequately self-direct. What we saw was that people were saying, you know what, I really do want to self-direct. I want to listen to the person. I want to be person-centered and be creative and think outside the box. But it takes work and I need some help. If I could just have someone help do certain things with me to figure out the hiring, to figure out how to community map, to figure out who's in my circle of support, how I can expand it, what's in my community, all those next pieces, it takes a lot of additional creativity, thought processes, and guidance. And we heard from families that in order to self-direct, they needed someone to help them do those pieces. And nationally, we're seeing that in order to self-direct, brokerage is a key piece, and the brokerage to work in partnership with the supports coordinator to move forward to those next steps. So we brought this on as a service that's key and critical for people to self-direct. To have the option to utilize a supports broker. We want to be able to, move this forward as we want to increase people's engagement in self-direction, their education on self-direction, and their ability to make the choice to live a self-directed life by utilizing the service of a supports broker. The training that we do that is required is through the Bog Center. When Colleen's I'm going to turn the next slides over to Colleen to talk to you a little about some of the training that we have to go through. We have made some really great strides, though, and changes this past year for enhancing support brokerage as a service, and we are going to continue to do that as we move forward to enhancing professionalism for professional education for supports brokers. We were able this past year to work very hard to justify a rate increase for supports brokers through our manual and, through talking to their budget and extensive studying through our learning collaboratives and community partnerships. So that's a really great piece. We've been able to enhance it, and we are continuing to work on enhancing supports brokerage and mandating trainings as well. So I'm going to turn it to Colleen right now. She's going to talk to you about some of the pieces that go into some of the training and some of the really great skill sets that you need to have in order to be a good supports broker.
Thanks, Tricia. So when it comes to really creating high quality supports brokerage, we see multiple things coming together. We see Tricia's unit at the division being able to provide technical assistance, continuing education to a variety of stakeholders, and really working together with those stakeholders to hear from the voice of people with disabilities to help guide the service to make improvements. So that's one step in terms of what you all can do to improve the service and really create a high quality service. I'm going to talk to things from the angle of what people should expect from a high quality supports brokerage organization, so that both people and families know that this is what your broker should be doing to support you, but also those of you that are brokers know what you should be striving for. And if you're a brokerage organization that's supporting brokers within your organization, things that you can do to help mentor them and grow them into being the high quality supports brokers that we all want to be able to see. And then I see some of you, and I know some of the names, and I know that you're working hard to be able to do. First and foremost, everything we do stems from person-centeredness. Good good supports brokers understand the value of listening deeply to people, taking the time to have conversations, taking the time to ask questions, to observe, to learn about what people want in ways that helps to keep the person with the disability, their needs and preferences at the center of everything. And when they're having these conversations and really learning about the individual, figuring out how they want to use supports brokerage to help them to self-directed their supports, the self-directed supports and services in the ways that make sense. Because self-directed services is different. They look different to everyone and how they piece them all together. And different people might want brokers to do things in different ways. It's not one of those services that's always static. It's one of those services that's going to ebb and flow with the person and their needs and the services that they choose to self-direct. A really high quality supports broker is going to take the time to plan along with the person, focused on those self-directed services, their life, their vision, and the resources that they can bring together in their community and the relationships they can cultivate to make sure that happens. And we can't stress it enough, but a high quality broker always helps to keep focus on the person's vision for their life now, but also helps to look towards the future and the vision they want for their future, especially as they age and their family members age. Another key tenet of high quality supports brokerage is that collaborative relationships. Supports brokers start from the get-go collaborating with that individual's team. They sit down with the individual, their family, and other people that care about the person and the person to get to know what they're looking for. But they also collaborate with their supports coordinator and their self-directed employees and other people in that individual's life to help make sure that everybody's on the same page and working together. They're going to understand and discuss what the role of the supports broker is in supporting self-directed services and make sure that the person in the family is aware of what they're able to do and also share some of the differences between a supports broker and a supports coordinator and the importance of that collaboration. In that collaboration, supports brokers are often going to be tasked with navigating complex situations. And complex situations really require us to work in partnership and be able to walk in each other's shoes and have sometimes challenging conversations, whether it be a person with a disability who wants one thing and their parent who may want another, to a supports coordinator that might not necessarily understand what the person's looking for and communicating that with them, to the person really not having the experiences they've desired to be able to express what they may want to do in the community. All of these situations are complex, involve navigation from the supports broker, that involves partnerships that enable the person to grow and help them to have greater visions and realize that community life that we all strive for. And when that happens, we're able to really build strong teams that wrap around and with the person to help them live the life that they want. And this includes the work that we do with self-directed employees, helping that person to really be that employer that directs their life and directs what they want all their staff to be able to do with them in support of the life that they want to be able to achieve. And it really ends in that empowerment piece. All of these collaborations lead to raising that person's voice up, whether they use words or not, and making sure that what they want is truly realized through self-directed supports and services. High quality supports brokers are always compassionate, and ethical. And I need to change. I'm sorry, I'm having some button issues here. I apologize. High quality supports brokers are always compassionate, ethical, and responsive. if I always like to say that sometimes I wish I had like a whiteboard in front of me, and that we want to be able to meet people where they're at. Oftentimes, supports brokers are on the top level of the stairs because supports brokers want so much for people, but people aren't necessarily there yet. So we need to meet people where they're at. It's a lot easier to come down a couple steps and help bring someone up than it is to expect someone to come the whole way up with us. So brokers need to be compassionate and listen deeply to people, to meet them where they're at, to determine what their needs are, and be able to help them get the supports, the self-directed supports and services that they want and need to help bring them up the steps and help them to get that life that they really desire. Obviously, in terms of ethics, strong supports brokers work within the limitations of the service description that has been provided by the Division of Developmental Disabilities. And they realize that supports brokerage does come out of the person's individual budget. So they use time and resources that wisely based on the individual's expressed needs and an agreed upon need for assistance, so that they can make the best use out of that individual budget, and that individual can capture those dollars in a way to purchase self-directed services, to purchase goods and services, assistive technology, home modifications, or whatever type of self-directed services they so desire. And brokers are really continually responsive to a person's needs and preferences as these grow, change, and evolve, especially as that individual gains more experiences and really sees a vision for life that may be different from when they first met the person. I can't say this enough, and I'll say this in trainings a lot of times, the best supports brokers are the best researchers. Really good supports brokers are resourceful in their thinking as well as their ability to problem solve. A good supports broker isn't going to just turn to somebody and ask them how to do something. They're going to take the initiative to dive into it and figure out how to make something happen, whether that be something as basic as understanding both of the fiscal intermediaries, whether it be Easter seals and agency with choice model, or personal preference, or public partnerships in the vendor fiscal employer agent model. That broker is going to be able to dive in and understand the ins and outs of the fiscal intermediaries and how they're used. A resourceful supports broker is going to dive into understanding the community for which the person lives and come up with creative resources and things to do and places to go that can help lead that person to the life that they want. And when a problem arises, a really good supports broker is resourceful in the sense that they know that they don't have to take it all on. That's not the role. Their role is building those collaborations and those partnerships so that problem solving can take place just as it does in all of our lives, in a collaborative process where we rely on our families and friends and other people that care about us to really help us to figure things out. Supports brokers are always supporting opportunity. And I always like to share the concept of the 3 E's, which is education, experience, and exposure. And those really stem from the Council on Quality and Leadership, where we want to make sure that people with disabilities are educated in all the opportunities that are available to them in their communities. But that doesn't stop. They're also posed with exposure to those opportunities so they can figure out what they might like to do or not like to do. And then taking it a step further than that, truly having the opportunity to experience all that community life has to offer, both within the community setting, but also within our home lives, to be able to live that fruitful, valued life that we all desire. And all of this resourcefulness, it is imperative that it reaches beyond the system. And that's really why what brokers are tasked with, is helping people with finding self-directed employees that are community members that have interests that align with the person, and also those community resources that we can all tap into to make our lives the lives that we want. you can't do that unless you're connected to the community. And that's an essential role of the supports brokers. A really good support broker has knowledge of each community of those individuals for which they support, and they're skilled in community mapping. And those two go hand in hand, so that for every person being supported, that broker is going to take a deep dive into the community, walk around that community, get to know the nooks and crannies, whether it be the firehouse or the barber shop or the pizza place. They know what's in that community and what opportunities may be available to that individual, from something as basic as hanging out at the pizza place to potentially participating in activity, volunteering, or creating relationships. And doing this supports inclusion, valued, meaningful, authentic inclusion in the community. And those connections will not just help that person to be included, but it leads to greater opportunity. It can assist with helping the person develop relationships that could be a potential self-directed employee. It could lead to a resource where there might be a volunteer opportunity, an activity that the person participates in. Or, as many of us do, we get our jobs through our relationships. So connecting to the community, you never know, that pizza place could turn into a place of employment someday as those connections continue. And it's all grounded in relationships. Really high quality supports brokers take the time to build relationships. They network. This helps to cultivate strategies to find self-directed employees, whether it be going to the local community college and meeting the professors of human services, or the professors of recreational therapy, or whatever it may be, to network and find potential students that might be interested in being self-directed employees, or going into the local Main Street and meeting people to know where people hang out, people with shared interests with the individual using supports, places where flyers can be hung up, all of those grassroots things that often leads to finding the best self-directed employees is an essential role of the supports broker. The best staff aren't found on Indeed. The best staff are found in our communities, through our relationships, through the connections that we all make. Supports brokers are skilled and able to facilitate circles of support with the person, whereby they're bringing together non-paid individuals to come around them, to share ideas, to vision, to problem solve on a regular basis, to really cultivate a group around the individual that is there and supportive in a way to help sustain that individual's life and the way that they want to live through self-direction and life in general. And good brokers are constantly developing toolboxes. Their toolbox of resources, ideas, strategies, conversations. And I think one of the things that I'm sure throughout this conference we're all hearing is that the need for succession planning, and that we see families who have been self-directing for years and years who are worried about, how do we continue this way of life after we're gone? And brokers can help with that succession planning that's put in place to help the person to maintain that lifestyle and ability to self-direct through that cultivation of circles of support and listing people to make sure that they're carrying the mantle and moving things ahead. And that's really essential and of dire need at this point in time, especially. Really good brokers understand this, obviously, the service, the purpose of the service, the resources that exist, and the values based in the service. And I'd be remiss if, and I'm sure Jess is going to allude to some of these things too, but, obviously, all supports brokerage agencies should take a deep dive into the policies and procedures manuals and understand what the service is and the parameters within it, so they can provide it in a way that is that is meeting the individual's needs. And we also have 2 documents that we developed in collaboration with the division, as well as people with disabilities and families, to help understand brokerage and support self-directed services. Understanding the self-directed services in New Jersey and the role of the supports broker really is an easy to use guide that leads people step by step through what self-direction and supports brokerage is. And the more recent document we developed is Deciding to Self-Direct, which is intended to help people with disabilities, together with their families, really understand what self-direction is and make the decision about whether it's a good fit for them. And I'm going to turn it over to Jess, because Jess is going to really expand on some of the awesome ways the division is helping to grow and support this service as well. Jess?
Thanks, Colleen. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about some of our networking and educational opportunities available through our Office of Education and Self-Directed Services. We host self-direction family networking sessions across the state. These family networking sessions are an opportunity for families who are self-directing to build connections with other families in their community, to share resources and engage in open discussion about all things related to self-direction. These sessions are in person, and they're being offered at different locations throughout the state. And families supporting a loved one who is self-directing their services or interested in learning about self-direction are invited to attend. We've had family members tell us that they've built their circle of support by attending these networking sessions. They met people there who they connected with. Families get together after the sessions. Their loved ones have become friends in some instances. Connections are being made and resources are being shared, and they're just a really great way to learn and find and share support with others who are self-directing. We also host peer-to-peer networking sessions for our self-advocates who are self-directing, and those sessions are virtual. And we update our website with our upcoming dates and locations as we schedule them. The link is there. There's a QR code there that will bring you to our training calendar. And you can also email our help desk and ask to be added to our mailing list, and then you can receive our flyers for all of our upcoming sessions. You can go to the next one, Colleen. Perfect. And if you're interested in virtual learning, we offer lunch and learns where we talk through topics related to self-direction. We love to collaborate with people and families who are self-directing, with supports brokers, support coordinators, fiscal intermediaries, and various units within the division as we're kind of creating the content for these lunch and learns. Our first 2 lunch and learns we hosted are linked on our website, and you can just go and watch them at any time. And as we launch additional lunch and learns, notifications go out via DDD communications. And also, if you're a part of our mailing list, we do mail them out that way as well. You can go to the next one. And we hosted a self-direction conversation cafe at the Lawrenceville Library in October. I know a lot of people here were there in attendance. This event was to support the collaboration between supports brokers and support coordinators. And we had about 45 support coordinators and brokers from across the state attend. We set up tables of about 6 to 8 people each, a mix of brokers and coordinators, and every table had conversations. Some of the topics were, what are each of our roles? How do we collaborate? And what's working and what's not working? We had pastries and coffee and tea, and we just sat around the table together and collaborated. And this was a really popular event and something that we plan to do more of in 2024. The next one, Cal. And here is our Office of Education and Self-Directed Services help desk email address. It is ddd.oesds@dhs.nj.gov. Our help desk is our main hub and our connection to the community. People write into us to ask questions, share their experiences with self-direction, schedule a phone call with one of our staff, get help finding a supports brokerage agency that serves their community, and definitely ask to be added to our mailing list so that you can receive information about our upcoming events. Thanks for putting that in the chat, Colleen. And then we can go to the next one. I think we're ready for questions.
Please feel free to raise your hand or type something in the chat. It's a small group. We're happy to, answer whatever questions you have for us. And if you don't, then we're going to just start asking you questions.
I'm going to ask them questions.
Okay, good.
We wanted to leave plenty of time because we knew there would be brokers and families in the room and people with disabilities also that would be able to share what their expectations are for high quality brokerage as well, because we want to hear from you too. Who wants to share something? Even brokers.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'll share. So I'm with Eros Group. And one of the things that I see with with high value brokerage is I have been working with a couple of individuals who I have 3 right now that are all homeless and all have some form of IDD. And one of them that I've been working with is very distrusting of people. There have been a ton of people come in with her that make the same promises that I have, and say the same thing, and then nothing comes of it. So I was able to earlier this week really make a connection with her, and really kind of understand more where she's coming from and the position that she's in, and kind of form that connection and recognize that we're all on the same team. We're working with support coordination, we're working with resources, we're all trying the best we can to build that relationship. And I think making that connection for me was really important and really showed the importance of brokerage and the things that we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. That compassionate connection is so critical, and you letting people know that you're walking alongside with them through their journey and you're there for them in that way is so essential to building that trust, because we have let people down. And it's great to see you building that.
I'm just going to quickly answer Grace's question. I typed it in the chat, but I wanted everybody to hear it. So the question was, will there be family support groups in North Jersey? So we started the family networking groups virtually first, because that was what it was, that was the time. And we started listening to families, and then we started where there was a need. So families in Burlington County addressed us first. We started there. We are looking to go to the northern part of the state. We have some places mapped out, but not until January of 2024. We are in Hunterdon County. Our second meeting in Hunterdon County at the end of, well, the end of November is the end of this month, And so we are looking to go, and it's based upon where we see the need, where families have come to us and said, like, hey, what about this county? What about that county? And we just try to grow them as they go forward. So yes, long-winded answer, but yes, we're moving to the northern part of New Jersey. We did start in the southern, and we, Hunterdon and a couple other, the inner parts of the north part of New Jersey, but the Bergen County is where we're going to be heading in January. And keep looking at our website, because we do update it every time we schedule another one.
Any other idea? Any other ideas for what you all think is creates high quality supports brokerage, or questions? What you're looking for in a high quality support broker, or people should be looking for. I see Nellie's question. If the person is self-directing their services, or intending to self-direct their services simultaneously with searching for housing, then yes, they can utilize a supports broker, but it needs to be tied with self-directed services.
The question, Grace is asking the question, how do we decide if it's worth using our budget to pay support brokerage when we're already using our budget to pay RSD? So that is a personal choice. And you need to, clearly figure out what works for you. Certain things, there may be just some aspect that, you really need some help with right now. So maybe just there's some aspect that you need, somebody to really take the time to focus in on a specific item that you want to have happen, whether it be, whether it be a specific, getting a staff to do a specific thing or taking a specific class or looking at something, defining something in the community, that at this time, you know that you don't have the time to do that. Your budget's already using your SDEs. You know, you would like additional supports for someone to do something with you, whether it be going through resumes, whether it be posting the job into different job sites and getting out there and, you know, getting on foot and posting them all up in different places. And so it just depends upon what works for the person. And it's really geared towards the person, their supports, their needs, what they're looking to do, how they're looking to, you know, set things up and establish them.
Yeah. Do you mind if I add to that?
Yeah.
I think a lot of this really, everything that we do comes back to the individual's vision and their vision for life, and sort of comparing and contrasting, is that vision for life happening? And if not, asking ourselves why. And that's a really important conversation to have with supports coordination during those regular planning meetings and monitoring meetings, because a good supports coordinator can help you to navigate, well, you know, are you not getting that maybe because there's something going on that a broker maybe could help with, like Tricia said, you know, finding a community resource or helping with, you know, the SDEs. So I think looking at it from that lens can help people to navigate whether or not having a broker would be helpful to them. And I think a lot of times too, it changes over time. If you're a person who's been doing this for a while and you got it in the bag, you might not necessarily need that. But as your needs change, the need for a broker might come in, whether it be you're in the sandwich generation, like many of us are, and you're caring for a child as well as an aging parent, and you might not have time to really do some of that paperwork related to the SDE. That might be an opportunity that might be a good time to say, you know what, it is worth it because I want to keep maintaining this self-directed approach, but I can't do it because I'm being pulled in different directions. So it is one of those things that can ebb and flow and really, really come together like that.
Hey, Colleen, it's Walter Kalman. I'm not sure I quite understood your answer to Nellie about the housing related to the brokerage. I mean, the support coordinator has a role in helping with housing as well and finding housing. Did you just, is your point that they don't have the kind of time to develop housing, you know, more elaborate housing arrangements than that a broker would have? Is that what you were trying to say?
Not so there are limitations with regard to when a broker service can be utilized. And the main limitation is that individual needs to be self-directing at least one service, so that you can't just hire a broker to help you find housing if you're not self-directing. So that's important. There are some support coordinators that are very skilled at helping with those things, but a lot of people are turning to brokers, especially in particular when they're self-directing, to help support that as well.
Can I add to that
Yes,
too?
Tricia, please. Yeah.
One of the things that really, you know, a support coordinator might help you find, you know, the actual place or figure those pieces out. But what's in your community, right? Where are the go-to hotspots? Helping you figure those pieces out. That's not what the support coordinator is going to be able to do. When you're moving into a new place and you need to find out, what's, where do people go for certain things, and figure all those different little nuances out about your new town. Or even if you're just starting out and they're like, I don't know, do I want to live in this town or that town? I want to be able to walk to a store. Let's try to figure out where we're able to, different locations and what's in your community. They're going to help with some of that community piece, figuring all those pieces out and helping someone along that way as well. Which is a little different than the support coordinator part.
Yeah.
That's
True.
why
All right.
Sorry. Go ahead, Walter.
No. Thanks. I think that I was just trying to get a little clearer on your answer. So, all right, that's fine. Go ahead, Nellie.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons why I ask is because I'm in the process of placing my daughter in housing, and when I asked my support coordinator about guiding information as to What questions do I ask the agency that is going to manage this place? What should I look for? What is needed? What, questions that you need, they really don't know. They really don't have the experience for that. So they told me support broker. But a support broker, first of all, if you don't have enough funding, you're not going to be able to hire them. And second of all, my question is, at the point that she is self-directing in other parts, so okay, I can hire a support broker. Can I use the support broker once she's placed in a home and I'm having, let's say, difficulties with the agency and stuff like that? Are the support brokers supposed to help with that? Or is it the support coordinators that don't know much about it?
A support broker would not be helping with a provider managed service. So if your daughter is living in a home for which a provider agency is providing the service, it's the responsibility of the provider agency together with you and the supports coordinator to make sure those services are working out. A broker is only going to help with those self-directed services, not the provider managed services.
Okay, and you're talking about, I'm sorry if I'm taking
Like an agency coming in to provide services. That's what we mean by provider managed.
Okay, so a self-directed program, a program is like a day program, correct?
No, it
No.
would be more like if you're using anything in the community. So for instance, if your daughter wanted to hire your neighbor to be a self-directed employee to provide their day-to-day support, that's self-directed. If your daughter wanted to purchase a membership to the YMCA that we can all purchase to go to the gym, that would be a self-directed service.
Okay.
A self-directed service is paid for through the fiscal intermediary. It's
Okay.
not using a DDD provider agency.
Say that again?
It's paid, so you have to utilize the fiscal intermediary if you're going to be self-directing. It's not an actual agency, a provider agency.
Okay. So it will be directly.
Correct.
Yes. There's more,
So
there's, yeah.
Easter Seals?
Easter Seals is the
Yes.
fiscal intermediary. That's a fiscal intermediary. So
And
they are
PPP?
used, yes.
PPL.
That's through
So
Medicaid.
why-
PPL is the other fiscal intermediary.
Okay, I'm sorry, PPL, right. So why does a day program is not a direct,
They're
please?
Dehabilitation is provided by service provider agencies that bill Medicaid directly, and they really manage their staff. They manage their services. They take the lead on the majority of those things. Whereas in self-direction, it is the person that's the employer or the family, and they are the ones that take the direction of managing and hiring their staff and other community supports, community resources,
Okay,
like goods and services. And there's a lot more flexibility and choice and empowerment when it comes to self-directed supports and services. You're guiding everything, controlling everything.
mhm.
Hi, it's Walter again. Tricia, this is probably something you could answer. Are you finding more families doing self-direction where their family members are less severely disabled? for lack of-
Actually, it's a mix. Because what we're finding is that people are, well, one, since the pandemic, people have, found it more useful. They've gotten used to being in their own homes and figuring those pieces out. So there's a lot more people who are utilizing people that are familiar to them and hiring them on as self-directed employees. And then also a lot of times when you look at some of the provider agencies, they have a specific mold, like in the fit that, they do a specific thing and that they've been doing it for some time. For some of the people who need very unique circumstances and, need their needs to be met in a specific way, they're self-directing as well. So it is not one type of person who decides to self-direct. First of all people should be person-centered. We should be looking for the all and figuring out their why and looking into the community for all supports and services. But we are finding that, more people are, as they're reaching the priority waiting list, because our unit receives that as well, are, starting to look and say, okay, what is it that I want for my life? What is it that I don't want? And then crafting it around that. And by crafting it around that, it's the utilization of self-direction really goes hand in hand.
Thanks.
But what I can also, just to add to that, when there are a lot more families that are involved, very involved for people who are self-directing.
That makes sense. Yeah, thanks.
One more thing, is a person living in a group home can have self-directed services? No,
No, they are provider managed.
exactly.
Correct.
So, all right.
Great.
They-
Go ahead. There's another question I see coming through. Provider agency or J programs paid through Medicaid, does that still come from the DD's budget or is in addition to the budget? It depends on who is funding that. There are some Medicaid funded medical day programs that are funded through another part of Medicaid. But habilitative services such as a day program comes out of the person's budget. And it's in that specific section of the budget. Habilitation.
Trish, there's another question in the chat if PPP services are included as a self-directed service.
So PPP is not a part of a DDD service. They're separate DD, but it is a self-directed service, but it is not through the division. So it's separate from your DDD budget. Lisa asked a great question. And this is from Colleen, Jess, and I can try. Are there skills that you're in the office or families notice that we as brokers may be missing or things that we could be doing better? So again, we've been working to enhance and improve upon Supports Brokerage as we're going along the way. The community conversations were great because that's building that relationships between support coordinators and educating support coordinators and working in a positive way. I know those of you who are supports brokers who are here tonight, you've been working really hard to kind of educate the support coordinator as to what your role is versus theirs. And we're trying to make people more aware of those pieces. And as well as really educating the families as to what, the do with, not for, making sure that people understand that piece that, you're here to walk along with them, building the partnerships. That's something that we really want to enhance. And then I think some of the really boots in the ground community mapping pieces that we're trying to build into the trainings so that everyone's knowledgeable about, how to have the conversations in your community and find all those pieces that people could be looking for. Colleen and Jess, I don't know if either one of you want to add anything, but those are the things that I think that we're really trying to enhance.
Yes, do you have anything?
Also just within our unit, we're hoping to increase our mentor role with a lot of the broker agencies in the future. So we're definitely looking forward to that. We want to collaborate a lot closer with you guys, which will be helpful.
Especially because we really want to make sure that we have more quality brokers out there. As people want to use the service more and more, we need to have more good quality brokers. And so we want to be able to guide them along the way. If a new brokerage that wants to be doing a good job, we want to be able to build that along the way. So we're trying to see where people need help. We've done we just started doing a really preliminary quality check for some of the support brokers so we can get a baseline as to, what people are doing. And we can figure out where people may need assistance, guidance, additional support, or where we may need to make some changes within the division. So we're really trying to make sure that we implement it the right way and build mentoring in. But again, this is all new because we started off very small a little while ago. So, Colleen, do you want to add anything else?
The only thing I was going to add is the helping the person to be empowered to work with their self-directed employees so that they can be really included in their communities and do the things that they enjoy, but also explore their communities to find new opportunities. Also, I think acknowledging the importance of creative problem solving and innovation, especially when it comes to understanding the fact that whether it be a direct support professional or a self-directed employee, we're facing staffing shortages. It can be challenging to find staff, especially those that align with the person's needs and interests. So what are we doing with that? Where are we reaching? Where are we networking? But I would also say, how are we using technologies in different ways to support people to be independent if they're able to do that? I think that that's something that we really haven't gotten as far as we could yet. And I think that brokers can play an important role in some of that creative thinking with people and families.
We had that discussion yesterday, Wednesday, at the last networking meeting on Tuesday. Sorry, it was Tuesday. We had discussions with families about, and they want to learn more about using the technology because, you know, we've had families that one of the families actually said to us that, they programmed their Alexa to be the person who does all the reminders. And so then their person wasn't, her daughter was, mom wasn't such a nag because Alexa was the nag. And some of the families were asking us, well, that would be great. Can you help us try to figure out what other technologies out there that we could use, and, figure out the resources. And we had families sharing really cool different resources that I wouldn't have even thought to share. They were talking about, we got a new piece of medical equipment. I didn't know how to use it. And someone said they had to train me. I went on YouTube, found the right link. The moms were sharing this really cool stuff. So that's another piece that, working with the families as a broker and saying, well, maybe we don't have to have a staff for that. Let's figure out, what else is in our community and what other technology could just provide that assistance to create more independence, whether it be the keypads on the doors or, any other things. There are a couple questions coming in about, will there be more trainings coming for support brokers? Colleen, I think you just did one, right?
Orientation, I just did, but I booked another one for December for the orientation.
Awesome. So yes, there's more the mandated trainings coming, and we have been working really hard to provide more support broker network professional development. So not just the networking, hey, let's share our support broker stories. Let's really develop as professionals together. So we are working on those as well. We've had a couple, and we're bringing that forward. If I am a new broker, how would I go about getting a mentor to help me create high quality support service and suggested required trainings? It's a great question. So the suggested training, the mandated trainings through Colleen at the Bog Center. And you would write into our office for additional. We haven't quite developed that mentor role yet. We're working on it, but we could support you with that group of people that I showed you in the beginning that are at the end of our help desk. If you write in, we can set up phone calls and guide, take different cases on and guide you through those next pieces and help, once you've gone through that first training, then you're on the listserv to come to the other additional networking sessions that encourage professional development as well. I'm glad we have some new brokers that joined us today because, again, we've been trying to grow this service, to really support people the right way so that they can live their best self-directed lives. Any other questions? We have 3 more minutes, so I don't know if anybody else. We're glad you took the time out of your night to spend with us here tonight, and hopefully got some insight. And you have our help desk that you'll be able to write into with questions, and Colleen provide her information as well.
I'm not sure if you can see the chat, but you're getting a lot of thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was really informative and just a great open conversation at the end. We really appreciate, all the knowledge and resources that you've shared with us this evening. And I just want to comment on the fact that that New Jersey has this very office of education on self-direction. I always mix up the of and.
That's okay, so do we.
But it's revolutionary, and I just think we're really, lucky to have this. And thank you for doing this groundbreaking work and helping us to be, better as a state and better as providers and professionals and people who use services. This is awesome. We really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.